So I've got a project coming in the door pretty soon. I have a video I've made on it that's a little more in depth, but I wanted to talk about getting a outside project into one's own environment. And for this, I'm using Digital Performer. So there'll be a couple of specific things, but I'm a fan of checklists. And so I have a checklist here, and I'm going to go through the process right now, and we can do it together, okay? Here we go. I'm going to start up a new document in Digital Performer, and I want to make sure that the sample rate and the bit depth is right. So with this, we're doing 96K, very exciting, and 24-bit. Now, what I've done is I've had the person who's sending the files to me send 2 files per queue, or song in this case. And one of the files is a standard MIDI file, and the other file is a stereo audio file, and we're going to record some singers here. So next, we want to be in the tracks window, because we're going to be using this to drag things into the tracks. Right now, the first thing I'm going to do is import the standard MIDI file. So I'm going to go into the import menu, and we're going to do MIDI file as sequence, and then we're going to go to the downloads, and we are going to grab that MIDI file and just bring it in. Okay, so now we need to look at the sequence menu, because that is where this file is going to be. And that's called chunks, by the way. There's 3 kinds of chunks in Digital Performer. One is a sequence, one is a VRAC, and one is a song. And this is all about sequences. You can think of a sequence as a song in this case. So there it is. It's the finale of the show, and it is the MIDI file. So I'm going to duplicate this right away. And the reason why is because I want to be able to put that away in case I make some mistake and I can't figure out what it is. I can always go back to this MIDI file. So then I'm going to actually, the name of this has changed to number 14. So I'm going to do that and take the rest of it out of there. And then I'm going to put that in play, and we're in the tracks window. Now you can see here's the conductor track. So there's a place where it slows down, then it changes to 3/4 tempo. All that stuff has to be accounted for, which is why we're doing this. And we look, and it's in conductor mode, which is good. And it's non-standard tempo, so thank God we have this. Next thing I'm going to do is import the audio track. So to do that, I'm going to find the audio track in the Finder. And it's right here. And I'm going to drag it into the names section of this tracks window. Now, okay, so there it is. It's playing. That's fine. And then let's just see. I'm going to turn on the conductor track. I know you can't really hear this so well. Let's see. And let's see if this click at the end works. Perfect. So it worked fine. That's great. Now, sometimes it'll come in the wrong spot and you'll have to deal with it, or there are vamps or fermatas sometimes, and they'll put a wrinkle in the tempo that you'll have to deal with by cutting bars or adding bars or whatever. We're going to talk about that in the other video. But anyway, so that was it, and it worked out perfectly. Now, one thing that you can do is look in the Soundbites window, and you will see right here, I'm going to pop it out, and I'm also going to scale it up, just so we can see it. You see there's this little waveform icon here, and that waveform icon would have a circle with a slash through it if it were not right, which would mean that you'd have to go back and re-import the file, or you'd have to let Digital Performer actually change the file, which it's usually set to in the default. This was right, though, because I set the sample rate, which I already knew in advance before I imported it. Now, next thing is we want to import the old files. There's some old files that go along with this, and they are in here. So I'm just going to take all these at once, And I happen to know, as is often the case, that all these files start together. So I'm just going to throw them in there like that. It looks like they actually more or less turn out. But for right now, I am going to mute all these. We're going to be going through the score and making sure that all the measure numbers line up with the measure numbers I have in this file. That's very important, because when we get in here with the singers and we say, let's start on measure 97, I can just do .97 and then we're on bar 97, as you can see right here. But if the singers aren't in the right place, that's going to cause a lot of confusion. So that's what we're going to do to make sure our session goes smoothly. Let's see if there's anything else on the checklist. Ascertain any space needed for dialogue, music pickup, sound effects, or click. Okay. So what that means is sometimes you'll need space in advance of the music starting. Say if there's a musical pickup, or you're going to have some sound effects, or if there's dialogue before it, anything like that. And so you'll want to set bar 1 to be the bar where the music starts. And it has to basically align with the score. So let's just say that all this material was 5 bars later. Then I would need to set a start time. I know you can do this in any DAW. Go back to the chunks window, which, as you remember, is sequences, VRACs, or song files. And it's this one right here. And I would go in there and I would set a chunk start time. I would set this to -3 measures. And -3 measures is going to mean bar 1 is going to start on the music. The one caveat is you have to deselect the meter, the 2/4, and the tempo, quarter equals 112.5, so that when you shift the rest of the tempo information and the sound bites, they will end up at bar 5, but the negative measures, measure -3, -2, -1, and measure 0, will be at the same tempo as the start of the cue. That way you can count on a click that's generated by DP in the session to be at the right tempo as the start. So that's a little bit about how we're going to do that, and I'm going to get back to work now. Thanks so much. See you soon.